hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken.
When Mackenzie Shirilla was arrested for smashing her car into a wall and unaliving her boyfriend and friend, she was in a state of shock. People saw her as an innocent 17-year-old caught in a bad place at a bad time. But as her trial ensued, some people started shifting their opinions. Perhaps it was not just an unfortunate accident. What if Mackenzie used her innocent face and charm to commit the unthinkable after a toxic relationship had gotten on her nerves? Her trial was long and tiresome, and the verdict had lots of people, including Mackenzie, in tears. Let's explore the full case of Mackenzie Shirilla and try to get to the bottom of what really happened that fateful night. On July 31st, 2022, 19-year-old Davian Flanagan asked his friend Mackenzie for a ride home. She was in the car with her boyfriend, Dominic Russo. It wasn't going to be much of a detour to drop Davian off at his parents' place, she said. Why not? But in a few minutes, both Davian and Dominic would be dead. At 100 miles per hour, Mackenzie smashed her car into a brick wall. The horrifying noise woke up a local resident, and she quickly called emergency services to the scene. The paramedics' priority was to ensure Mackenzie was transported to a hospital and treated for her injuries. They were quick to note, however, that Mackenzie's injuries were far less serious than those of the two boys in the car. Maybe Mackenzie had been really lucky, hitting the brick wall on her boyfriend's side, or maybe she was really intoxicated, or maybe there was a third, much darker reason. Dominic and Davian were pronounced dead at the scene. That night, their families' lives ended. These were their children, whom they thought the world of. They had things to look forward to and lots of academic ambitions. Now they were gone, and someone had to pay for it. Mackenzie Shirilla was born in August 2004, the third child of Natalie and John. To many who knew her, Mackenzie seemed like the favorite child. Perhaps it was her parents growing more permissive and tired of disciplining their children. But Mackenzie seemed to have it her way every time she wanted. She was moody, demanding, and always misbehaving at school. Even after she got herself into minor misdemeanors, her parents did not punish her. As a teenager, Mackenzie would throw childlike tantrums whenever she didn't get her way. It was really important for her to have the last word in any argument, and she would even get physical if she felt people weren't taking her seriously. These are worrying narcissistic traits, but her parents did not seem concerned about this. Davian's mom would say, "My middle daughter knew her in school, and she was very much a bully, someone who would be interested in demeaning people and humiliating them. She would tell people they should commit suicide when they were depressed. She was a narcissistic, not nice person." And yet her parents said Mackenzie was just going through her teenage phase, and it was normal for her to behave this way. Except not all teenagers get into physical fights, berate their classmates, and consume abnormal quantities of alcohol and narcotics. Yep, Mackenzie's behavior was truly questionable. Her social media looked like this or like this. She bragged about her looks, her wealth, and narcotics use. It was never about other people, it was always about her. Mackenzie had a group of like-minded friends too. They shoplifted, vandalized, and organized fights for fun. They got caught by authorities several times, yet every time they got released with a simple warning. They thus realized their young age protected them from actual consequences. But Dominic Russo was not like Mackenzie. He was born in September 2001, the fourth of 7 children. His parents, Frank and Christine, were very close to all of their children. People around them saw them as the epitome of the big happy family. Dominic was into sports and healthy living. He was also a popular student throughout high school, surrounded by friends and admirers. In 2022, he was studying to become a producer of performing arts. It was at a local college party that he and Mackenzie met. They had no friends in common, and their lives were nothing alike. But you know how opposites attract, and entitled people attract patient listeners that give them all the attention they constantly require? Such was the romance of Dominic and Mackenzie. And as teenagers often tend to do, they started spending all their time together, and even introduced each other to their families as soon as they started dating, in the fall of 2021. Mackenzie's family welcomed Dominic with open arms. Dominic's family wasn't as happy though. Initially, Mackenzie made a good impression, but her entitlement quickly seeped through her every action, and Dominic's parents did not want their son manipulated by this person. The young couple had a turbulent relationship, to say the least. One day, they would dream of moving to New York and getting married when Mackenzie turned 18. Another, they would fight, and Mackenzie would threaten to unalive Dominic. The more Dominic pointed out to Mackenzie that she was arrogant and demanding, the more she would react. She could not stand getting confronted with her own misbehavior. A few months down the line, Mackenzie had become a monster to Dominic. What she would do to everyone else, she would do to him, except at a larger scale. She would ask him to do things for her, and then throw tantrums if he didn't comply. Meanwhile, whenever she saw a camera, Mackenzie put on an innocent deer face and touched Dominic as if she loved him more than anything. However, Mackenzie was around a few friends when Dominic suggested they take a break from each other. In front of everyone, Mackenzie cussed, screamed, cried, and threatened to take Dominic's life, burn his house, and wreck his car if he left her. Seeing this, would you stay or leave? Exactly. Dominic was ensured that he was making the right choice just by seeing Mackenzie's reaction. He had to get out. You guys, it only takes one person to exit a relationship, but since Mackenzie was so used to getting things her way, she was in complete denial. Dominic was out, but she continued to call and text him as if he was her boyfriend. Dominic then sent her several texts letting her know that it was over and asking her to stop contacting him. Mackenzie proceeded to visit his family home every single day, throwing insults at the closed door. She called him on various numbers, left messages on his answering machine, emailed him, and wrote on his social media. She alternated between begging him to take her back and cursing him for not responding. And when she ran into him in public, she cussed at him in front of several confused strangers. It was the stuff of nightmares for Dominic. He did not know how to make Mackenzie leave him alone. At this point, he was afraid of her. It was around the spring of 2022 that Mackenzie told some friends it would be easier for her to unalive Dominic than let him go. She would muse about running him over with her car or driving off a cliff together with him in the car. She even said she would stop the car on a railroad in front of a running train. These were all detailed scenarios. Sometimes teenagers don't take their friends seriously when they say these things, but Mackenzie's plan seemed serious. Dominic heard about them too from their now common friends. What would you do if you heard these words from your ex's mouth? Would you skip town and change your entire life just because of these crazy sounding claims? Yeah. Dominic hoped Mackenzie wasn't being serious, but he had nowhere to go. His family, friends, and college were there. In the summer of 2022, Mackenzie contacted Dominic with a different attitude. She was apologetic. She said she was soon starting college and now realized an academic future was more important than drama. Mackenzie asked for Dominic's help with college enrollment. For Dominic, it was a pleasant surprise, but Mackenzie's intentions, as always, weren't genuine. Before long, they were a couple again, to Dominic's friends' dismay. His brother Angelo urged him to stay away from her, but Dominic was confident she had changed. Meanwhile, Mackenzie would go out at night in her car, scouting the ideal location for an unfortunate accident. One morning, she spoke to her best friend. She had found the perfect spot to unalive herself together with Dominic, she said. It was a large brick wall around an industrial area just outside of town. Mackenzie's friend was hoping she wasn't serious. She'd spoken about dramatic scenarios before and she hadn't gone through with it. Why would she this time? Sadly, Mackenzie would prove her friend wrong. On July 30th, 2022, Mackenzie suggested to Dominic that they go to a friend's party together. It would be their first public appearance as a couple after their reunion. The two dressed up, took photos, and attended the party holding hands. As Mackenzie wanted, this earned her lots of attention. After all, they were a good-looking couple. Mackenzie knew this. She could not lose this. In the early hours of July 31st, the young couple said goodbye to everyone and left the party. But unbeknownst to everyone, Mackenzie didn't just drink that night. She'd also taken a serious hit of an illegal substance. Just as they were leaving the party, another boy joined them. Davian Flanagan wanted to go home too, but he didn't have a ride. He was wondering if Mackenzie could drop him off at his parents'. Mackenzie said sure, hop on in. What she didn't tell him, however, was that she was about to smash her car at full speed into a brick wall that night. Dominic was in the passenger seat and Davian was in the back seat. They both died within seconds of the impact.
Surveillance video captured Shirilla's car speeding down the road in Strongsville, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland.
When authorities caught up with Mackenzie at the hospital, she claimed she wanted to die that night too, but CCTV footage caught her fastening her seatbelt during the last stop. She had bone fractures and internal organ damage, but she had gotten off easily compared to the state the two boys were found in. Mackenzie's friend also spoke to the detectives after her arrest. She remembered how Mackenzie had spoken about that brick wall a few days before. She had planned this. The substances she took at the party were a sort of pep talk to herself, not the cause of this. That's not what she told the officers, though. As alcohol and drugs were found in her system, she used this as a tragic accident story. She took one too many and lost control of her car. Authorities were happy with this story, at least until they spoke to her friend. But one day, Mackenzie started crying in her hospital room next to her doctor. When they asked what was going on, Mackenzie told them everything. She was so upset at Dominic, she wanted him gone. She had planned everything, from the brick wall to the perfect goodbye party. When the detective spoke to her again, she acted like she didn't remember anything. It was all a blur, she said. She shouldn't have drank that much at the party. She also said she didn't remember how Davian got into her car. But the detectives had oodles of surveillance footage to go through, and it painted a different picture. Mackenzie drove slowly and carefully for most of the way to the wall. As soon as she reached the industrial zone, she pushed the pedal to the floor and reached 100 miles per hour as she headed for the wall. What's more, CCTV footage showed her car scouting the area several days prior to the accident. Several witnesses testified to seeing her car too. This was a low-traffic area with few residents. Many of them noticed the strange car driving around for hours on end. There was another clue, a heartbreaking clue that too often comes with narcissistic killers. Mackenzie recovered incredibly well after unaliving her boyfriend and friend. As soon as she was out of the hospital, she was partying and posting sexy pictures of herself on social media. She also attended a Halloween party, dressed as a corpse. 5 days later, she was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder.
I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken.
These were Mackenzie's words after she heard her sentence. You see, she was shedding tears for losing her freedom, but before all that, she was cocky, telling everyone there was no way she would be found guilty. She was underage after all. She would be out before she turned 21. One of the most heartfelt testimonies came from Davian's adoptive parents, Scott and Jamie.
My son Davian is and always will be so much more than part of. He was precious. He was an amazing soul with a heart of gold. Davian and my kids have had more than their fair share of heartbreak, of hardship, and of loss. Davian was adopted with his sisters from foster care. They're biological siblings.
Davian's younger sister also spoke about losing their protector and best friend.
I feel lost. He was the one who picked me up when I fell. He was my best friend and the only person that has stayed with me since I was born.
Dominic's mom, Christine, also had a lot of things to say about losing her son to a real-life monster.
This was not a car accident. The evidence and signs proved that Mackenzie Shirilla murdered my son, Dominic, as well as Davian.
Davian's family called Mackenzie a remorseless bully. They pointed out how she hadn't apologized once since she had stepped into the courtroom. Indeed, while Mackenzie still thought she could get away with murder, she did not address the judge or the victims' families. Her own mom defended her actions, including her corpse costume, weeks after unaliving her boyfriend. She said her daughter just needed to have some fun after such a traumatizing event. Yeah, an event that she planned and carried out. Mackenzie gave several conflicting statements during her trial. First, she said she didn't remember anything. Then, her former best friend testified against her, describing how Mackenzie had told her about the brick wall she'd found and her plan to take Dominic's life. So, Mackenzie changed her testimony, saying she wanted to take her own life too that night, except there was surveillance footage showing her driving carefully, then fastening her seatbelt before speeding into the wall. Dominic's brother also told the judge about a statement Mackenzie made to the doctors in the hospital, a good symbol of her entire personality, he says.
Mackenzie's statement in the hospital to Detective Azu, "Can't you just take my license away for 10 years or something?" That statement is Mackenzie's. The most selfish person I know. Ironically, Dom is the most selfish person I know.
Yeah, that's how Mackenzie addressed the detective interrogating her for murder. Dominic and Davian's families also had to watch Mackenzie's TikToks following the accident. It was clear enough. Mackenzie did not feel anything for taking 2 innocent lives. On August 23rd, 2023, the judge had a verdict.
The unintended and collateral consequences of a selfish, intentional, and cruel decision by Mackenzie will ripple forever in time. It's literally changed history because it's ended 2 lives. 2 young men are dead. Their deaths were horrible, terrifying, and tragic. I will say again, if any reasonable person reviews Exhibit 802, there can be no doubt in your mind what happened this night. That even if Mackenzie intended to also die in this crash, that is irrelevant. A failed suicide attempt is not a defense to murder.
Mackenzie Shirilla was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. However, the judge made it clear she didn't believe Mackenzie would be out in 15 years, not with her attitude. For both counts of murder, Mackenzie got 15 years to life. At the time of the accident, she was 5 days short of her 18th birthday. If it had happened a week later, her sentences would have been served consecutively. That means she would have been eligible for parole after 30 years, not 15 years. Davian's family said it's outrageous that she's getting off this easily. Jamie said, "There were 2 young men who died that night, but she's serving the sentence for killing 1 person, not 2. That's hard to take. We'll be talking about this again in 15 years, actually a little less because she's done time already. But in 30 years, I'll be in my late 70s, and I'd still be there, and my girls will be my age. That feels a little more fair. We are working on forgiveness, but the complete lack of empathy or regard for his life is just shocking. It's hard. We don't want vengeance, but it's also very difficult to forgive someone in denial, and she's very much in denial. Indeed, Mackenzie still claims she does not remember that night. Her tears and apology were only meant to reduce her sentence. This unspeakable tragedy did not change her view of life. Davian's parents and sisters set up memorial scholarship funds to open the barber shop he was hoping to open soon. His dad said Davian would really enjoy this being his legacy, a chance to help others. A lot of the time in the barber college, it's kids from disadvantaged situations. Not always, but they usually need financial assistance to be able to go and follow their dreams, to be able to help someone. Davian said we were his second chance, so to be able to give someone else the chance to pursue their dreams. Mackenzie will be eligible for parole by the time she's in her early 30s. This offers little closure to Dom and Davian's grieving families. One reassuring thought, however, is that entitled, remorseless people rarely get paroled. As long as Mackenzie doesn't accept her guilt and offer a genuine apology, she will rot in prison, far away from the attention she was used to getting. Hey, thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you know similar stories? Let me know in the comment section, and before you go, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. See you next time.